Good afternoon, Americans. This is your favorite alien and Bubba here in the afternoon of Saturday, June 6th, 2020. We're in the middle of our own D-Day with Mr. Floyd here. And I wanted to do the part 2 on MLK, Dream. So here we go. Well, like I said on the first part, Martin Luther King's speech of August 1963 at Washington, D.C., he laid out his plan on that dream. And what he said is he wanted to see the little white boys and white girls and little black boys and black girls in Alabama hand in hand, sisters and brothers. Now, if that doesn't say monocolored society, don't know what it is. That's as plain as Dr. King could have put it down. But then again, he suffered from karma. Because no sooner had he done that speech in August, President Kennedy gets assassinated in November of that year, 63. Vietnam starts in 64. Malcolm X gets killed in 65, which doesn't help the black movement any. And the riots start in Watson, 65. Vietnam gets really hot in 66. The riots in Detroit in 67. And then Mr. King gets shot by James Earl Ray, a white guy, in 68, which triggers a lot more riots and a lot more discourse. Then in the early 70s, cities like Detroit become controlled under African American control. Creates a white flight away from the city that's never recovered. Detroit's in default today. It's a disaster of a city. Atlanta becomes African American too. Philadelphia and other cities. There for a time, Chicago had a mayor. It's got a black mayor now. New York had Mayor Dinkins. And that didn't help any of the relations. And then we had President Obama here. Didn't help the relations any, did it? Because it created President Trump. And thus far, poor Mr. King's message gets drowned out. Why? Because the African Americans didn't want to hear it. You had Jesse Jackson, it's one of his so-called cohorts, had his own agenda. Ira Sharpton has his own agenda. And all the other black leaders have their own agendas. And they left poor Mr. King holding the bag. He had the right thing, and he knew it was going to be tough to get this done. But nobody, after his death, took his mantle and kept it up. So now, you got 50 years later, the same divide that you had back in 1963. And what have you accomplished in that time? Absolutely nothing. Poor Mr. King in his grave must be saying, God, where's the message that I did? Nobody's listening to it. You have to give up. And Mr. King knew that you have to give up something to get what he wanted. Both whites, blacks, Asians, Latins, he, she, he's, and whatsits. Everybody on this society would have to give up something to get something back in return. Have they? They don't want to. They like the hate too much. They like the racism. They like the bigotry. They're not going to give it up. Anyway, this is your favorite alien in Bubba. Good day.